Climate change is no longer a distant threat. It's a present reality exerting a heavy economic and human toll on the world and the center of the world. America! The increased frequency and intensity of these catastrophes need to be addressed not only for human lives, but more importantly, for money. For economic reasons as well. There's a strong argument for why we should do this and why it's prudent economically to take proactive climate action. We should have listened to Al Gore, is what I'm saying. Since the 1980s, the nation has witnessed an alarming increase in severe weather events.
Terrell, and in Dallas, your heat index is 107. Everyone in McKinney is dead.
According to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Association, the United States has experienced 371 such events, resulting in a cumulative economic impact of over $2.5 trillion. And this is not to mention the thousands of fatalities. This increasing frequency and intensity, it signals an urgency of proactive climate action to prevent. The increasing frequency and intensity really signals a need for proactive climate action to prevent further devastation. If not for the cost of human lives, economically, it might be prudent.
Do you have any jokes?
Recent studies suggest that the number and cost of billion-dollar weather events have increased dramatically over the past decade. For example, in 2020 alone, there were a record-breaking 22 such disasters, setting a new benchmark for the financial burden and human costs associated with climate inaction. Experts, including climatologists at NASA and the World Meteorological Organization, attribute this uptick to the intensification of extreme weather due to rising global temperatures, sea level rises, and atmospheric changes. These factors increase the risk of droughts, wildfires, hurricanes, and severe flooding, often impacting the nation's most vulnerable regions. Robert Reich, former U.S. Secretary of Labor, has critiqued the idea that the U.S. can't afford climate action, calling it fundamentally misguided.
Was me dying on the sidewalk, you'd walk right over me.
Reich's perspective, and it's shared by many economists, reframes the climate investments as a necessary measure to curb far greater future costs. In 2019, a study by the Union of Concerned Scientists, great name, estimated that an inaction could cost over $224 billion a year by 2090, purely from the damages from real estate along the coastlines due to rising sea levels.
Eat the rich.
This doesn't account for the indirect economic impact, such as loss of productivity from people dying, or disrupted supply chains, which are harder to quantify, but they're all equally damaging. How much longer can we procrastinate until this terrible group project we have of a world is going to fail? Economically, the rising costs of repairing infrastructure, homes, and businesses after each disaster place an enormous strain on federal, state, and local budgets. In the past 5 years alone, expenses have skyrocketed, with an annual average of 15 climate-related disasters costing over $20 billion each. Federal disaster relief funds, which frequently support areas devastated by hurricanes, wildfires, and floods, are being depleted at unprecedented rates.
What up, pricklicks? It's me, Dr. Moron!
And these costs are diverting funds from essential public services like education and healthcare. Local governments often resort to increased taxes and cuts to public services as they struggle to cover these soaring costs. The impact on the private sector is similarly severe. McKinsey & Company found that climate-driven disruption, especially those affecting agriculture, manufacturing, and distribution, pose significant risks on the GDP and has macroeconomic implications. In California, for instance, wildfires have led to enormous insurance losses and diminished agricultural productivity, affecting both national food supply and insurance rates. Many companies face rising insurance premiums and operational costs from extreme weather, which also contributes to high inflation and consequently higher costs for consumers. And whoever's buying Florida real estate is forever an eternal optimist on climate change, because see ya, Florida.
I'm never gonna financially recover from this.
The human toll of climate-related disasters is equally bad. From 1980 to 2023, thousands of lives have been lost and countless more displaced due to worsening climate crises. In the state of Louisiana and Florida, frequent hurricanes have forced so many families to relocate, resulting in what experts call a climate migration. According to a report from the Internal Displacement Monitoring Center, climate-related displacement is increased globally, with many as 143 million people worldwide predicted to be climate migrants in 2050. The psychological effects of climate-related events are often long-lasting, complex, and contribute to rising mental health issues affecting many communities.
Mud soup and charcoal arugula are outrageous here.
Investment in climate solutions is not just an environmental measure, it's critical as an economic strategy. Transitioning to renewable energy sources, building disaster-resilient infrastructure, and adopting sustainable agricultural practices offer tangible economic results. For instance, a recent report by Project Drawdown highlighted that investments in renewable energy yield long-term savings by reducing dependencies on fossil fuels, thus stabilizing energy prices and reducing greenhouse gas emissions. The renewable energy sector is a significant avenue for job creation and economic growth. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor and Statistics, noted that the jobs in renewable energy fields such as wind and solar are among the fastest growing occupations. The Solar Foundation's annual job census reported that as of 2022, solar energy alone employed over 250,000 people in the US, with projections for steady growth as more states adopt clean energy mandates. Beyond energy security, the sector's expansion provides opportunities for innovation in battery storage, electric grid management, and sustainable fuel technologies. Maybe ESG, environmental, social, and governance, can really save the day. Just kidding. Now, it's really important to build and strengthen the infrastructure to endure extreme weather. Investments in resilient structures like elevated roadways, fortified coastal barriers, and advanced stormwater management systems can significantly reduce repair costs post-disaster. The American Society of Civil Engineers estimated that by investing in resilient infrastructure, the U.S. can save up to $4 per every $1 invested. This illustrates that these upgrades have a high return on investment. Additionally, improving emergency response systems such as early warning networks and evacuation protocols can prevent loss of life and minimize disruption. Sustainable urban development also plays a crucial role in climate adaptation, incorporating green building practices, utilizing permeable materials for flood control, and preserving natural ecosystems like wetlands and forests are practical, cost-saving ways to protect communities from climate-related events. For instance, New York City's Green Infrastructure Plan has already invested millions into green roofs, permeable pavement, and stormwater management systems to protect against flooding, setting a model for urban climate resilience. Beyond protections, these measures contribute to urban cooling, improve air quality, and enhance biodiversity, offering a holistic benefit to society. By investing in renewable energy, disaster-related infrastructure, and sustainable urban planning, the United States can protect lives, secure livelihood, and lay a foundation for a prosperous, sustainable future. I'm starting to sound like Greta Thunberg. Thunberg. I don't know. That annoying girl with an accent. These initiatives are just solutions to today's climate challenges, but these initiatives, they're not just solutions to today's climate challenges, but they're essential for a resilient, economically secure nation. Or maybe we can live on Mars or something and forget about the Earth. You know, who cares? We're all just hurtling towards the grave anyway, man.